Welcome to Michigan's WW1 Centennial News Report for September 2019. Michigan Heroes Museum, located in Frankenmuth, Michigan. It has one of the largest collections of the American North Russian Expeditionary Force memorabilia, also known as the polar bears. So sit back and enjoy the tour. State Report, September 2019. Michigan War Veterans Memorial, located at State Fair in Woodward, is being moved. The memorial was erected in 1939. The Michigan War Veterans Memorial will be dismantled and stored in an undisclosed location until a new location can be found for it and money raised for its erection. To learn more about Michigan's WW1 Centennial or find out about events going on around the state, go to ww1cc.org/Michigan for the latest information on Michigan's WW1 Centennial. One century ago, September 1919. September 1st, 1919, Chicago, Illinois, the Communist Party of America organizes. September 3rd, 1919, Washington, D.C., President Woodrow Wilson sets out on a tour of the United States to arouse public opinion behind the Treaty of Versailles and the League of Nations. September 8th, 1919, New York. Babe Ruth hits his 26th home run off pitcher Jack Quinn, breaking Buck Freeman's 1899 home run record of 25. Ruth would go on and hit 29 home runs during the 1919 season. September 10th, 1919, New York City. General Pershing and 25,000 World War I soldiers are welcomed home. September 11th, 1919, Honduras. The United States Marine Corps landed to ensure an open election to choose a successor for President Francisco Bertrand. Bertrand promptly resigned and left the country. On September 12, 1919, Austria and the Allies signed the Treaty of Seyde-Maugelet. The treaty recognized the independence of Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, named Yugoslavia. September 12, 1919, Munich, Germany. Adolf Hitler joins the obscure German Workers' Party as its seventh member, agreeing not with the workers' rights, but with his German nationalism and anti-Semitism. September 16, 1919, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The American Legion is incorporated by an act of Congress. September 18, 1919, America's Gulf Coast. Hurricane tide 16 feet above normal drowned over 280 people along the coast. September 25, 1919, Pueblo, Colorado. While stumping for the League of Nations and the Treaty of Versailles, President Wilson has a breakdown. Because of this, the Treaty of Versailles never gets signed in Congress, and the United States does not join the League of Nations. September 27, 1919, Archangel, Russia. British troops withdraw from the North Russian town of Archangel after fighting the Bolsheviks. September 27, 1919, Washington, D.C. Babe Ruth hits his 29th home run, setting a league record for the year.
I'm John Ryder. I'm with the Michigan Heroes Museum. I'm the executive director here at the museum. And the museum's all about Michigan service men and women. What we do here is we tell the stories of everyday heroes and what they did in their service to our country. One of the big stories that we tell are the stories of Michigan's Polar Bear Regiment. The 5,200 and ended up going over and serving in northern Russia. Of those, 90% were from Michigan, 70% were from the Detroit area. So a lot of Detroit representation. In fact, they were known as, in training over at Camp Custer, they referred to themselves as Detroit's own, the 339th Infantry Regiment. And what they did is all documented here in their individual stories here at the museum. And then we also have regimental stories, like stories of some flags, some stories of their time over there, and even in coming back to Detroit afterwards. So if you're doing any type of research on the polar bears, this is a good place to start. Some of the things that they brought home with them were really unique, and especially, I think probably my favorite thing is the story of them being named the polar bears and doing their patches. Originally, they had decided to come up with the patch right here of the polar bear for their arm, the 339th did, and those attached to it. However, when they got on board ship, the first ship to leave wasn't able to make that polar bear patch so that it looked like a polar bear. When they cut it out, it looked more like a pig. And so then they decided the junior officers were sent down to the sick bay of the ship that they were on to come up with a plan of what they were going to do. They found a tin of Nature's Remedy here, and you can see that that's got the conjoined N and R. And they came up with the N and R to go on their patch. So about a third of them, when they came home, had that NR there for North Russia, since they were the American North Russian Expeditionary Force. And both this patch and this patch are made out of the Navy blues and whites. So the originals are made out of actual Navy uniforms that they commandeered on board ship. This flag here flew over the most northerly post used in World War I by the U.S. Army in Pinega, Russia. And you can see it's a storm flag, it's a heavy flag. But the guys at about 300 kilometers away in Onega, Russia, they had a flag that was given to them by a YMCA, and so it was just a regular ceremonial flag. And after 30 days of flying up there, you could see where it became really ratty and tattered, and they were going to have to take it down. Now, these guys were under British command, along with the Canadians and the French, and these guys did not like the British officers and did not like the British command. And they thought the British officers treated their own men even poorly. So instead of wanting to take that one down and put up the Union Jack in its place, they tried figuring out what they could do. Now this was in Onega at a little schoolhouse that they had commandeered to use as their hospital. And a gentleman that was in the hospital at the time, out of the 310 engineers who was attached to the 339th Infantry, Albert Geltz here. Albert found a Russian flag, which is the large, which was the ceremonial flag, and at the time it had the blue, the red, and the white stripes like the Russian flag does today, and that was the Imperial Russian flag. And Albert took that flag, cut the stripes out, and the large field for the blue, and he painted those 48 stars of the representing the states on it at the time, and he had the surgeon sew that up, and that hung in that schoolhouse as their flag, their unit flag. This here is Harold Furlong. Harold, in World War I, his captain fell in battle as they were trying to take a German trench. They were about 100 yards away from that trench at the time, and he tapped one of his grenadiers to try to get close enough to take out those 4 machine gunners that were up above the trench. They had the Maxim machine guns, just with an incredible firepower and a rate of fire as well. The grenadier took a case of grenades, pushed them up in front of him, and got close enough to scare those guys out of their mounts. And they jumped down into the trench until those grenades stopped going off. But in the meantime, Harold ran around the edge of that trench and he got in behind and he slid down and he hugged the ground until those grenades stopped going off and those machine gunners climbed back into their positions. Once they were firing back on his guys and their attention was that the other direction, he ended up standing up, walking up behind the trench, and took out those four machine gunners from behind. After those machine guns fell silent, he nosed his gun over the edge of the trench, and the 20 guys left in the trench all surrendered to him. An amazing story, an amazing guy. And he received the Medal of Honor for that action, and you can see here in the photo, he's got his crossed rifles for the infantry, but in his World War II uniform, he's got the medical corps symbol. He became a doctor, not just any doctor, he became an OBGYN. He delivered over 1,000 babies in his lifetime. And as he donated his things to the museum, he ended up sending a letter to the Michigan Medal of Honor Society at the time, which was quite crowded with the guys from World War II, Korea and Vietnam. And he sent them a letter saying, hey guys, I'm going to send my things to the museum. I want you guys to consider doing the same. Within 90 days, most of these men in here donated their medals and their stories to the museum, or at least sent a letter of commitment to do so in the future. That's the reason why we have the world's largest collection of medals of honor on display.
I've been thinking, said his wifey dear. Now that all is peaceful and calm, the boys will soon be back on the farm. Mr. Reuben started winking and slowly rubbed his chin. He pulled his chair up close to Mother and he asked her with a grin, how you gonna keep 'em down on the farm after they seen Harry? How you gonna keep 'em away from Broadway, dancing around and painting the town? How you gonna keep 'em away from harm? That's a mystery. They'll never want to see a rake or plow, and who the deuce can pollywoo a cow? How you gonna keep 'em down on the farm